All right. Okay. We're live. So, Jason Hall here, hanging out with Mr. Josh Andrew.
Yeah.
And so I was just saying to Josh, I said, I wanted to get you on here because I wanted you to kind of share your story because a lot of people there's so much bullshit out there. A lot of people just don't believe what we do. And so, because there's just so much hype. And so I want to give people as much proof, social proof, and awareness as possible so that they can see what we're all about. So,
Yeah. So, same thing. I remember when I came across, I don't even know how I actually came across, your company. I was probably just killing time on the Google. But yeah, same thing. I think I'd reached out to you. We'd had a few conversations, and same thing, it's like, all right, how good is this really going to be? So I kind of looked through a couple of your past clients. I gave John Westrom a call. I was like, all right, is this dude for real? He's like, yeah. He's like, it's worth it. I'm like, all right, well, he's like legit guy, and kind of poked around with some other people. And then it was probably 4 or 5 months or a couple of months after I originally talked to you, I kind of made the leap and did, the seed package and redid the website. And just started getting more of a process to getting things more effective and just a more effective use of my time.
cool. So give people kind of your story. So where were you? How were you feeling? What was going on at the time when you started? What made you reach out? Like what was the situation then?
Uh,
And
so
then and then where are you now? Like give people this story.
Yeah, so I'd been in property management for about 8 years. I'd worked for another company and helped grow them from about 50 to 250, kind of over like I say about that 8 year period, and then I just kind of wanted to break out of my own. So at the end of 2015, I got engaged on Christmas Eve and then quit my job the day after Christmas. And then 2016, I kind of woke up and was like, all right, well, I have no income now. So I just started reworking a lot of my connections and owners. And over about that 5 to 6 month period, I think I'd gotten to about 35 properties. But they weren't really, you know, great. And it wasn't totally going in the direction I wanted. I was getting some tough owners and just, doing things the hard way. So I spoke with you probably around, I think, that June, July period of 2016. And, same thing, I wasn't taking care of myself. I was eating crappy. I wasn't sleeping right. And a lot of that you kind of spoke to me in that initial convo about, it's, before you get everything else business wise, right, you kind of gotta do you. That really didn't fully sink in for about another 6 months. I did the seed package and everything. And then around like December, I just kind of got sick of myself. And I think so did my fiance. But, I started, changing how I eat, started going to the gym regularly, started losing some weight, and overall just being happier. Part of that is I started to realize kind of like when I'd listen to some other thing, but it's like when you work the best. And it's like whether that's, going to the gym every day, getting your hair cut every 2 weeks, but it's like when are you like most optimal and work the best? So I started like kind of like figuring a lot of that stuff out, where, hey, like, if I go to the gym before I go home, I kind of am able to cut loose better and relax and I can sleep better. So that started leading to being more productive at work and just started focusing more like on the business side. I think the hardest part about being in property management so long is when you start, while you might be good at property management, you're not that great at running a business. So kind of taking the step back to focus on the business and big picture stuff so that, you can still be a good property manager. And a lot of that all started clicking once I started getting myself, in a better shape. Mentally too, when you walk into a meeting and you feel good about yourself, that's going to project confidence to an owner or client. That's going to, make them want to go with you over somebody who won't look them in the eye or, is not confident about themselves.
So people listening to this are gonna be like, what the hell does this have to do with Jason or DoorGrow?
Yeah. So like the first thing I remember, and it was like before we even talked about business, it was like, just talk about life, and it's like when shit's not going right. And a lot of that is like, how do you handle like rejection at business or handle negatives? And it's like, if you have a bad day, do you go drink or do you do something else that's, it's not going to make the next day any better. A lot of those are compounding effects because, one thing leads to another, and, it's just, you're not putting yourself in a position to succeed. And that was one thing I just remember, like in one of our first conversations, you were talking about, just when you have a shitty day, like, how do you cope? Like, what's your coping mechanism? Like, some people will, depends on how you're built. Like, do you take things personally? Do you go like home and read a book and decompress? Or like, do you look for a reason to go to the bar? And kind of working around that so that you keep making every day better than worse.
Cool. So,
and I think that really falls into property management because you really we get bitched at a lot for the most part, where, you're always the bad guy. So it can take a toll on you mentally.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember we had chatted, and one thing I'm a big proponent of is that what's holding you back in business, surprisingly, often has nothing to do with business.
Yeah, 100%.
Is, I think, something I had kind of talk with you about, and so that's something that we focus on a bit. But tell people a little bit about your experience going through the seed package process, and like you said, where you were, door wise and revenue wise, and properties that you were taking on, and where you are now.
Yeah. So as I talked to you, I think I was around that 40-ish mark, and roughly 6,000 to 7,000 a month. And then today I'm closer to the 100 mark and closer and above, just like management fee wise, over 15. But with the seed package, the big thing that kind of like changed was to like take a step back and like figure out how you're getting like this. To me, the sales process was the big one.
That was kind of your biggest leak of all of them.
Yeah, I would say one of them. Yeah, because. And it's also just a focus. I remember, you asked me like, what's your close rate? And I was like, oh, like 90%.
Yeah.
But it's only because I wasn't tracking that. You only remember the wins. You don't remember the losses.
Right.
So that got me kind of just on to lead simple because my biggest weakness was like organization and multitasking. And you kind of realize the more you do this, multitasking is terrible. So like anything, I went with them because I was able to just track the leads on one platform, and it worked for me. But it really gave me an idea like, oh, my close rate's more around like 35 to 40%. So I was like, okay, well, I'm losing the ones that I want. So I was like, went back through like the sales training and some of the language and just came up with a process. And, once you have a process, you can kind of figure out where you're losing people. Like, and not only that, but are some of my presentations going too long, or just, am I getting in too much where I just like water down my presentation with just a bunch of BS about rentals. So that helped me just really hone down the process of where I pretty much meet with an owner and go through everything in about an hour. And just have a replica. Or just, am I getting in too much where I just like water down my presentation?
I'm hearing you.
That's about rentals. So that helped me just really hone down the process to where I pretty much meet with an owner.
Did you open another window?
Let me. And just have or just like getting in too much where I just like water down. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, whatever. I had it open in Safari, and I guess it clicked.
Oh, okay. Sweet.
Like I just subscribed it. All right, all good. But yeah, like having just a replicable process. And then big picture wise, when I want to add another business development person, like, I have an exact template of success to like where, look, like you don't really need to focus on this because that's not what you're selling people on. And it gives you a better ability to differentiate that from other PMs. Everybody's going to go in and talk about like leasing and, that they use Appfolio and, all that's great, but that's not going to differentiate me from anybody else.
Yeah. So tell everybody then, like if they're thinking about doing the seed package, what's your perception of what the seed package is and what it does for people? And what would you say to the people that are looking at this going, well, I don't know. I've been in property management business a while. I don't know if I need anything like
So that
that.
was the first problem, is being in property management business for a while is you have like blinders on. Because you talk to that was kind of the biggest thing. I think you being 1 degree separated from property management allows you to just like kind of shield yourself from a lot of the inner workings of PMBS that doesn't make you effective. So it allows you to set up your business in a way that's going to generate revenue. It's also going to give you the ability to focus on good clients that are going to make you money and empower you to do your job. And it allows you to like, especially the sales process and some of the pricing strategies, is you don't have to sell yourself based on price. You sell yourself based on your services and you. But you're never going to have to be the guy that goes in and the only way you can get that client is to undercut the price. I would say I very rarely, people ask if the price is negotiable, I just say no. But let me come and meet you, and I bet I can tell you why it's worth it. And then some of the others, the sales language was a big one too. I don't think I realized kind of how much more negative context I was putting on things by using like but and kind of a couple other terms that kind of spin the convo in a different way and you don't even realize it. And then, the website was fantastic. I get so many more leads through my website organically. Because like you said, if people go on the page, they don't need to search around for a place to click to send their info. They go, hey, it's right there. This is what I want. Boom, done. And it's funny, like look at other websites now, and it's like if I want more info, like shit, where am I going to find this? I got to go through 6 different tabs of stuff I don't care about to like give them my info, which is like giving money. So it's like you make it as easy as possible. It's on every page, and it's also just a clean format. I would say that's one thing I do get is a lot of compliments on the website. Definitely over other competitors that just use the basic template Appfolio uses. And I mean, Appfolio is great, but it's tenant oriented, not owner sales oriented.
Yeah. So you used to have the Appfolio front end website.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I just spoke with an owner today and they were like interested in the seed package. And they were like, well, we can't, and like everybody, they're like, well, I'm not going to change my branding. I was like, okay, everybody tells me that. And they're like, and I can't change my website because we use Appfolio.
Right.
I hear it all the time. So what do you realize with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's people, I did it just because it's simple. It's there. It's a path least resistance. Like, hey, you want $1,500? Like, I'm already using your software. I'm trying to get set up quick. It just seemed to make sense at the time. But like, when you go 6 months and you don't get one inquiry through your website, like what's wrong? Like, I'm getting phone calls from it, but that's a phone call. And
yeah, a lot of people mistakenly believe that the front end website of Appfolio and the back end property management back office and software are the same thing.
So, So, and as you use and go through, you realize like the template of the Appfolio, you eventually like don't really use at all. As you use Tenant Turner or Rently or whatever use their widget for scheduling. If you go through Property Meld and other thing, you're going to, it's going to get chopped up anyways. You might as well have one that works for your sales side. And it's just. And
you still have Appfolio as your back office.
Yeah. Right.
Like most of our clients.
Yeah. But I mean, as the website was, if I had to do it again and now understanding why, I definitely wouldn't even have used it. And it's expensive for what it is. Because you're not getting value out of it. But you got to provide all the content. You got to do this. I'm not a web designer, so that's kind of what I'm using them for. But they have, just their template they use for everybody. I love looking at competitors when I go against 3 other Appfolio guys, and word for word, each one is the same. So I'm like, all right, they're just slamming them in, and having something that's not like the others is useful.
All right, so you started 40 doors. Where are you at now?
About like 90, 95, 97, right in there.
All right, almost 100. So doubled.
Yeah, definitely doubled. Most importantly, like I said, getting owners that want to maintain their properties. You know, if something needs to be fixed, I call.
So
You
yeah,
know,
so you're getting better clients and you're charging more money.
yeah, better clients, more money, higher rents, a lot of higher rents. Um, and like I said, just not having people get in my way to do my job. And that's the biggest one. And that's where you, like I said, you get bad reviews from. Owner doesn't want to fix something that's broken. You're kind of left in a tough position because, you know, and it's in my sales process too. When I tell them, I was like, look, if something needs to be fixed and it's $5,000, like the heat, like what's your answer? And then they're like, well, I'm like, well, there's no well. It's like, it's only yes, because, these things are going to be non-negotiable. I was like, so then they're like, that's my big break point with people where, if they have 20 other questions about how not to spend that money, then I was like, maybe you're not going to be the best landlord or owner. So now I have it set up with my services too. Like I'm kind of big on being proactive. We're doing just a fall and spring HVAC inspection. If they don't want to do that, those are all red flags where I can just, that owner is just not meant for me.
And this is what you're saying is this is stuff you've picked up going through some of the trainings that would give you in the seed package.
Exactly. Yeah. As much as you build your, I think one of them, it's like when you build your ideal client and when you go through about, people you need to like fire, it's like having that figuring out ways to pick that out before you even pick the property up.
Yeah.
And just realizing what those pain points are and figuring out ways to identify those so you don't get stuck with them. Because it is harder once you take on that property to get rid of it, especially when you probably didn't even need to take it on in the first place.
Yeah. So let's do some math. So seed package, it's thousands of dollars, but let's do the math. How much revenue have you gained as a result that you wouldn't have had before?
Oh yeah. And the year's not even over, but in the last 12 months, 12, figure, that's not even including leasing fees in there. We got roughly about I would say between 8 and 10 grand a month more now.
Additional.
Yeah. So, you're looking at 6 figures.
Yeah.
And not only that, but a lot of it's the time. It's a lot of times is when if you've been in property management for a while, when you start, a lot of this is the business side that you just don't have quite down yet, like setting up processes, making things so your life is easier, where you just hop in and start managing properties right away. And you don't have processes, you're kind of shooting from the hip. So to really hone that down, and, I kind of look at everything as, all right, I want to work 50 hours a week. Like how many things can I process to get an hour back here, an hour back there? And, I realized I was wasting a lot of time going on, meetings for people for properties that I could have weeded out on the phone. So like that was one of them, is having your, just a quick phone call intro to kind of have some of those weed out factors. So you don't have to go on that appointment. Not that I would say I look for reasons to not go, but if it's going to be something that's just major, that it just isn't going to work out. Like if it's not in my geographic location, if they're not willing to pay the price, and that's, a lot of times you'll call and they'll be like, well, so-and-so said that they'll do it for 4%. Like, well, I'm not going to get anywhere close to there. So, I was like, I'm more than happy to come over, but I won't be anywhere near that number. So,
yeah. So you, like several of our clients, have gone through the process, now have this confidence because you have this clarity on what you want, and you have this clarity and knowledge that you can get business. And
the
thing is, you're no longer needy, and when you're needy,
when you're needy, you're fearful, you'll give away the world to just get a property, kind of.
Yeah.
But now, I'm, it's like hold firm on everything.
It's not needy.
No. And actually, I would say the clients, it kind of respect you more for it. When everybody goes in there, it's also, you're demonstrating value. Like, I believe in what I do and that it's worth a certain price. Jimmy over here comes in and, went from 10% to 6% like that. Like, how much value? I don't know any other business where, people come in and just drop by half,
Yeah.
It's like, I know that my HVAC guy doesn't do that, because he'd be out of business. So
Right.
I tell people like that, I was like, what's going to happen? Like, they either are getting properties in a hurry, and then they won't end up with the ability to staff. And then you're going to suffer for that. And when you talk to them, a lot of these people are pretty logical, and, we live in an expensive area. So, they're pretty, well educated, well employed. So when you really go through with the ask about that stuff, making sense of it, they're like, wow, yeah, they're like, that makes a lot of sense. And, you hold firm on your price, and, they're not going to beat you up later too. When you give them an estimate or something, they're not going to be the people that want 10 other estimates. You're like, you're just demonstrating that you're in charge. You have the power. Like, I'm the professional here. And this is why it costs this much.
Cool, man. It's great to hear about your successes and your wins. Love seeing you moving through the process. So other people might watch this, they might see you, and they might think, well, maybe Josh is just smarter than I am, or maybe he's just figured things out different, and maybe not. This isn't something that the average Joe can do and go through this process and win. What's your perception of the seed package?
Yeah, I mean, you're only limited by your own whatever you think you can't do.
Do you think the seed package is something that just about any property manager could go through this process and start having success?
Yeah, 100%. It'll give you so much structure, and it also force you to do things. Like I said, watch the videos, take notes, turn off your phone, and just do it. I think that's one of the hardest parts with a lot of businesses. When you start, you have full well intention of doing a lot of these things, but there's nothing to hold your feet to the fire to get it done. So 12 months later, you still haven't done your sales process, or, gone through your pricing or anything else. So having some structure and accountability in there is huge. Cause it really is a challenge, for, I think, a lot of new business owners coming out of, a W-2 world, to focus on developing the business, for longer term success. Because otherwise you're just going to half-ass and put stuff together that's not really a process, and you'll think you'll be doing it right, but you could have really done it in a way that's 10 times easier. And same thing with the pricing. Going through the pricing structure, it helps you know your competition better, makes you know if you're priced right or just totally underpriced.
How about the reputation stuff? Have you gotten into that?
So, yeah, totally forgot about that. Yeah, Gather Kudos was fantastic. So that was my biggest challenge, is getting reviews. And you also don't want to be like that guy that hassles people and emails them like, hey man, can you hit me up on Yelp or whatever, pages, whatever it is.
Right.
It's pretty awkward. So using Gather Kudos, like I said, I first use that. I do need a better process for as I go through to get people in there. I usually once a month, just like hit it up with like 20 contacts.
Well, make sure you watch the Reputation Secrets training in the seed process and create that process.
Yeah. So that's one thing that's my next step.
Cool.
But it's great. I think I'm up to, like, between, Yelp, Zillow, all those, probably over 150 reviews.
Awesome.
So it's pretty, just in a year, that's a lot. I drew on past clients and stuff like that, but a lot of people, it gives me a lot of credibility when I go into a lot of these meetings, and, everybody Googles you now, and to see that you have 56 reviews on Google and you have a 4.99 rating, you come with a lot of ammunition then, sense of legitimacy, everything.
So you'd mentioned time, right? So a lot of people that watch this might be thinking, oh, I don't have time to watch a bunch of videos. I don't have time to do all this. But then you also mentioned that basically time-wise, you have more time now as a result of doing this. So maybe you could touch on that concern and explain how this helps them actually collapse time.
So yeah, a lot of time. And I kind of started, like, 1 week, I think I just kind of wrote down what I was doing here and there, to really figure out where my time losses were. A lot of it was doing, and it's, I think, another pitfall in property management is you can create a lot of busy work that makes yourself feel productive, but you're not accomplishing anything. So to really have processes set up, and then, I always look at it too for like things I need to get done. I've become more of a morning person. I always like, whatever I want done for me, like, is the first thing I do. Like, wake up at 6 a.m. when nobody else is going to bother you, watch the videos, do whatever you want business wise. Because everything else during the day, like if you want to do it at the end of the day, everybody's going to chip away at your time. And then you get home at 6 and you're not going to do it. And you really shouldn't have to do that much at home. There's enough time during the day that, between the sales process, cutting down on, you want to be able to do things so you don't have to think about it all the time.
And we've got hours and hours of video content in there. So investing that time, has it then created more time for you? You have, more time.
Created more time. It's made me more focused on, I call it like scatterbrained, where it's like, because I have a process, I'm not missing like 2 things and like, all right, I got to send this email for this prospect. And I can't remember I did it for this one. Like I just go down my list and it's like, okay, it's all done. And I did that in 30 minutes instead of like not having a process and it taking an hour. And that multiplies a lot. I mean, if you go 10 appointments on 1 week, you're talking about an extra 3, 4, 5 hours of just wasted time because you just weren't following a process, or kind of a success diagram. And it goes for everything. Maintenance, how you're dealing with maintenance, accounting, communication with the owners. And a lot of it too is the setting up the processes early with the owners too. Because I was kind of went through and it's like, all right, what are my most common emails? How can I address those earlier by setting expectations? So when you cut out 20 owner emails a week because you've front loaded that as part of your onboarding process, the amount of time you can get back in a week is pretty incredible. And it also, you're giving better service. You're showing them, what you're doing. They have confidence in you, which means when you do need something, it's going to be yes instead of 20 questions. So then you get back time there. The amount of time you get back is pretty endless. So
before the seed package, what stuff were you trying to do to grow the business?
A lot of dumb stuff. So like Google AdWords, SEO, the do-it-yourself way. And you can just drop cash like crazy with Google AdWords, especially when I'd gotten a book, read it, you kind of think you know what you're doing, but Google was the only person that made any money off that. Same thing with like Facebook ads.
Wait, same thing as what?
Like the Facebook ads. A lot of that stuff, being early on, in a new business, like I said, by doing these things, you do create a lot more time. And then, okay, what are my business sources? And I work with a lot of realtors, and big realtors too. They're doing $50-80 million a year in volume. So it's like, why don't I just spend more time with them? Not only that, but telling them more what I do. So they know me better. And then that naturally has just led to more referrals. It doesn't cost me anything. It's more of like a friendship thing too. Like we know each other, when our birthday parties and, just being there for your other clients when they need you. And then kind of just in the local network of friends, letting them make sure that they know what you do. And then one of the things previously I was doing was the like all property management leads, which they're, kind of garbage for what you're paying. They're bottom, looking for the lowest price.
Well, to APM, so they're cold leads, right?
Straight cold. Yeah, very cold.
And that's just what it is. That's the nature of cold leads.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like I'm not like a total cold lead guy. It's just not who I am. So it's like I'm not going to force myself to really, put more money into that when I'm not winning. Right. Especially when I have a total skill set that excels on this other side. And then a couple of times a year, I'll teach a class through like Long and Foster and a couple others about, just leasing and going through that. It's great exposure to like new agents so that they know, hopefully know what they're doing. But a lot of it too is they don't want to do rentals. So like I become an instant, referral source for them.
That's something you're doing now?
Yeah, so I've done it a couple times already.
Okay, so the stuff that you were doing that wasn't working, and it felt like it was struggle, and it sounds like you're spending lots of money on different ads. This all sounds very typical, right? This is what everybody does, and so maybe just to wrap this up, share with people kind of outside the business, like what's your life? How's it different now? How's your relationship different? You'd post a little bit about some of this in the group. What are some of the ancillary benefits that you've kind of experienced?
I say I feel better. I've kind of like, wake up and you just kind of want to attack the day. You're not dragging yourself out of bed. I know like personally, my wife now has been, she's like, when you're home, you're actually here now, as opposed to when I first would come home for early, the first thing I would do was pull out my computer and sit, at the couch and, doing whatever busy work, but it made me feel like I was accomplishing something. And then also just being like, I would say edgy, or just, I had no like release for like a shitty day. So usually you come home, you're in a bad mood, you're snappy.
And now your days are less shitty then.
Yeah, less shitty. But I go to the gym a lot. I started kind of doing like semi-competitive powerlifting, and actually that's a lot of clients have actually commented that on my Facebook page, and I've actually gotten a few leads that way and from the gym. But it's been a great like buffer between work and home. I rarely pull out my computer when I come home. And it's opened up just kind of that. You always need something else outside of work, and even a relationship to kind of have as yours.
Yeah. And so you're able to have more balance now because the business isn't such a leak in your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a leech on my time, on me mentally. And a lot of times too, like a lot of that, being in the gym transfers over to business, like, learning how to fail, not having a good day, but, still like, all right, you can either like leave and go home, or you can make the most of it and like still get work done.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the things I've learned through that is transfer over to personal life and business. And like I said, big thing is balance, just, and feeling good about yourself. And, that's the biggest thing. When you respect yourself,
so your wife likes you more now.
100%. Yeah. So a lot more. She definitely, like has probably seen the biggest change in me, physically, but also just, when you come home and you can actually hold a conversation instead of like being stuck in halfway between a conversation and whatever's on your computer screen.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Josh, super awesome. So people think about doing the seed package, you would say to them,
yeah, definitely do it. I mean, the payback is going to be quick. The biggest thing I would say with the seed package is just do the work, hold yourself accountable, set deadlines, and it's going to make even that, I know that simple of holding yourself accountable, that's going to translate to a lot of other things. But yeah, do the work. If you do the work, you're going to make money. The website's going to help you, you're a great resource, and just, it'll pay for itself in a month. Like, if you look at the payback, if you get 3 properties because of it, the leasing fees alone will pay.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe even 1 property. I think my biggest property this year, one of them, it's $7,000 a month, and I got it through the website where you just filled out the questionnaire.
Awesome.
Or not even, or whatever, you just put his info in and I called him back. Mm-hmm. And hey, all right, that paid for that.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Hey, appreciate you, man. Excited to see where you are. I mean, a year from now, where do you think you're going to be?
Like I said, a year from now, I'm kind of trying to look to, I would say, double my revenue with half the amount of properties. And as I said, I just signed up for the Easy Repair Hotline and Property Meld. So just to make sure I keep doing things to keep me running a business,
keep costs low.
Yeah, keep costs low. And, maintenance wears on me mentally. So it's well worth it to get it off my plate and to make me feel better to get more properties.
Yeah, that'll be a big step for you. That'll free up some time. All right, awesome. Hey, appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your day to share with everybody else your wins. And I'm excited to see what you do in the future, man. Keep going.
Cool.
All right.